Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined by Peter Baracchini and Dayton Reimer. We are getting closer and closer to the World Juniors starting. We're about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks from Christmas, and of course, actually, it's 2 weeks today as we're recording. Boxing Day is when the World Juniors starts, so it's coming up quick, and that means rosters getting announced. A lot of teams are doing their training camp and stuff like that. And Team Canada just announced their roster. And that's what we're going to talk about first on this episode. And we did talk about the projected roster. Now we're going to talk about the guys that maybe should have been there. And there's always those guys that we're thinking, okay, why the heck weren't these guys added? They could obviously maybe be added later, but most of the time it's this roster that they kind of go with. So, Peter, I'll start with you. Who were you surprised not being on there? I know there's the common names of like Matthew Schaefer, but he's going to go anyway. That's not a snub. That's just the Islanders saying, no, we're not giving you our best defenseman. So what do you think about missing players?
Yeah, I'm so upset that Macklin Celebrini isn't going too. Yeah. I mean, that's jokes aside there. I mean, initially, I was going to say Marek Vanacker, but he was just recently added to the roster. I guess Michael Meese is still day-to-day kind of situation right now from what I saw from the Hockey Canada posts on Twitter in regards to that. So I think that was kind of the next best addition in terms of players that probably was going to say was a snub, but ideally, that's a great addition because he's got a heavy shot. He's leading the OHL in goals. And you know how I talked about him last week, how he would have been an ideal fit. So I'm not really going to touch on him too much. I mean, again, it's kind of hard to say that there were really big snubs, unlike last year when they left off Becca Seneca, Zane Parekh. Zane Parekh is here this time. Seneca is not going to be there this time because he's torching it with the Anaheim Ducks. So there's really not a whole lot of glaring omissions compared to last year. They took the right players and the best players that could get the job done. And they got, star players that can move up and down the lineup. That's key. In terms of like notable omissions, I don't know. Justin Carbonneau stands out to me. If they wanted a little bit more offensive punch, I mean, they already got that with Vanacker. A little bit more speed and creativity. Carbonneau, I think, would have been a really, really great addition to that. On defense, again, kind of hard to nitpick here and there. I think maybe you could have had, if you wanted to bring another steady, strong two-way guy, you could have picked Charlie Elick. If you wanted to go another 2026 draft pick, and I mean, you already have two going in Carson Karels and Keaton Verhoff, you could have gone Xavier Villeneuve. So those were like two names that you probably could have added in terms of like adding a little bit more speed and skill. But to me, there's just a whole lot of balance in terms of Canada's forward and defensive unit where you have a mix of everything, size, speed, skill, creativity, puck possession skill, the ability to work down low and basically play a well-rounded game, so to speak. So for me, those are two players that you probably could have added in terms of getting a little bit more depth, but it's hard to say because they took the right guys that could get the job done this time.
For sure. Like we talked about Braden Coots not being on that projected. He is on the roster, on the camp roster. So I'm happy about that because he definitely deserves to be there. So I actually liked who they were added. And now Vanacker, that was the biggest one for me. But now that he's been added, that kind of goes away. So we'll see if he does end up staying there because they do have to make some cuts, right, to the roster before it's finalized, I guess. Dayton, what about you? Was there any glaring omissions from this camp roster?
Glaring omissions? No. I think they picked pretty much the best team that they could. I think it really boils down to preference, I think, when you're looking at some of the bottom six or the bottom four or whatever. I think Vanacker was, a good addition. He's having a killer season in the OHL. Little surprised you didn't see someone like Carbonneau get invited. Tariq Parasic, I thought maybe he would get a nod. Sasha Boisvert. Hopefully I said that right.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. I get caught sometimes when I will say a French name kind of French and it's not pronounced that way. But I think it's Boisvert.
Yeah.
He's having a great season in the NCAA. People were upset about Bryce Pickford on defense. He is also having a great season.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was really on the radar. Should he have gotten an invite? Maybe. The Edmonton Oil King defender did, Mackenzie.
Yeah.
Ethan, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So beyond that, I don't know if there was any big misses. I think the one I'm maybe most, I guess, wishing would have been on the roster was Lucas Beckman. I mentioned him last time. I think he's done everything he can in this season to show that he is a top goaltending prospect. And I mean, he's just got beat out by Joshua Ravensbergen, which is like, that's tough competition.
Tough name to beat.
Yeah. You got someone who's, I think, about 6'2" versus 6'5". And so you're going to take the bigger goalie because he takes up more room and he's having a great season with Prince George. So yeah, I think that's my biggest miss. Little upset, not upset, disappointed with that. And of course, would have loved to see Justin Poirier on the roster. He was never going to make it. He's too little. They always have that size bias. Cam Schmidt, kind of same situation. But both guys are having just amazing seasons so far. And I think they at least deserved a nod. That's what happens when you have a limited camp roster, though, right? You got to cut somebody, and that's just how it fell this year.
Yeah, I was just about to say too, if it was that extended camp where, we would have found out about the whole entire camp roster, the 2 squads last week, then a lot of these names definitely would have been on there. We didn't even mention Kieran Walton too, from the OHL, who's having another killer year. But at the same time, you could only bring so many players because they want to be ready. They want this group to gel together right away. So yeah, if they did have that extended camp, a lot of these names for sure would have been on that roster or extended roster, so to speak.
For sure, yeah. So they're taking just one team. It's kind of they got to pretty much name most of the roster at this point, and there's just going to be few cuts before it's actually finalized for the tournament. So we'll see who ends up staying and who ends up going, and hopefully there's no injuries during it as well, because that has happened in the past. All right, let's move to Team USA and talk about their roster. It's obviously also not a finalized roster, but there is most of the guys are there. Who are you watching? I'll start with you, Dayton. Who are you watching on Team USA? Trying to go for a three-peat, which is pretty crazy. They've pretty much dominated. I mean, they've taken over what Canada used to do. I mean, it's winning gold like multiple years in a row. And they have a good chance this year as well with who they're bringing.
Yes, I think they have a chance. I don't know if a three-peat is in the cards because they're lacking a little depth that I think they've had in previous years, and that might prove to be a huge difference maker. But I'm still going to be watching several guys who I think have the chance to dominate the tournament. First, James Hagens. This is his team this year. He had 9 points, 5 goals last year at the tournament where they won gold. The only other returning player who had more points than him was Cole Hudson, who's another player that you should be watching. These guys are going to dominate that offense. There's nothing really going to stop them. They know they have that experience. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them hit double digits this year. They're going to be, I think, a very difficult team, or at least tandem to handle. Two guys who weren't on the team last year, who I'm going to keep an eye on, Logan Hensler. I wrote a piece about him, Senators prospect, you gotta. But I think he has a really cool opportunity to become like a perfect two-way defenseman, contributing at both ends of the ice. I don't think they really have that. Cole Hudson, more of a pure offense. But then they got someone like EJ Emery, who's more of a pure defense. Hudson fits in really, really nicely between those two. And I think he could have a really nice opportunity to emerge as a key contributor if they go into, another medal spot. And I think they're trying to challenge for that. And then also Will Horkoff.
Mhm,
Another guy who's been having a great season in the NCAA. 28 points in 20 games with the University of Michigan, 19 goals.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think he could surprise as somebody who all of a sudden people are wondering how did he fall so low in the NHL draft? Because he went 24th overall.
Yeah.
Which already was like a little higher than we expected. Maybe he should have been even higher than that. He's emerging as like just a perfect power forward. You know, he's got that physical presence. He's great. He's great in front of the net. He plays a two-way game, and clearly he's very good at putting points and goals up for his teams. So that could be, I think that could be like I'm trying to think of the word, a game changer for the Americans this year when they have, you know, big gaps like Ryan Leonard.
Yeah, without him, I mean, of course, that he's dominated this tournament. I believe last year, actually the last two World Juniors, he's just looked like a man among boys. They just look like an NHL player already. And of course, he's doing pretty well in the NHL right now, too. So, but on Horkoff, I mean, the Penguins got, I think, a bit of a steal now when you're looking at it, down where they got him in 24th. So we'll see how close he is to the NHL. I don't know. But had 19 goals already in the NCAA. That's a pretty good start in the league there. So we'll see if he can be an impact player for the Americans. Peter, what about you? Anyone you're keeping an eye on apart from those big guys there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you don't have Ryan Leonard. You don't have Gabe Perreault to help lead the charge, but you still have a lot of quality offensive tools that you can use. I mean, Cole Eiserman, he's definitely going to be the one leading the charge. You already mentioned James Higgins, but who falls in after that? Again, you mentioned Will Horkoff, and that guy is just an absolute gamer. He will do whatever it takes to win, and his mindset of wanting to compete and be hard to play against, that's going to be a challenge for a lot of teams. And when you have close to a goal per game and you're dominating down low, yeah, you're going to have your hands full with him. It's great that Dayton took him as a player to watch, because I was going to do the exact same thing. Like, he's going to be one of those unsung heroes, I feel like, for Team USA, because of how he is driven and determined to go to the front of the net. Again, you look at some of the returning players from last year. Can Trevor Connolly take a big step? Are you going to basically look at Brody Ziemer and Teddy Stiga to take another step offensively for this team as well? Didn't quite have, or the impact, because I guess they're further down the depth chart. Now they're going to be into an elevated role this time. One other name that I'm going to look at as sort of like one of those players that could jump up the lineup and be an offensive impact, kind of like Will Horkoff, but for a different reason, that's Riker Lee. Again, 13 points in 16 games for Michigan State, and he's going to go possibly, potentially, if there's some sort of like knockout round matchup against Team Canada, his teammate in Porter Martone as well. So that'll kind of be fun to see. But in terms of like pure skill, creativity, puck work, handling, you name it, Riker Lee is just as deceptive and just lethal within the offensive zone. And there's a reason why Nashville took him just inside that first round, where he could have gone anywhere between that 25 to like 32, 33 range, where if it went to second or day two, there's no way that Riker Lee was going to be falling down to like, 35, 40 range. He was going to be taken early, and that's going to work to Nashville's favor. I feel like he's going to be a very important player, someone that can move up offensively or up the lineup too, if the team needs a little bit more of an offensive push. I was a big fan of his later on in the year, and he was one that really caught my eye. And I'm looking at defense too. I'm looking at Chase Reed. You know me about this whole entire draft class. The defense is absolutely phenomenal. And during that CHL NTDP prospect challenge, Chase Reed was all over the place, even in like that, golden overtime or super overtime or super, whatever they wanted to call that 20-minute 3-on-3, which was exciting as hell. Chase Reed was dominant. He was making his presence known. Eventually it went in Team USA's favor. They won in overtime, but he had a lot of good looks. And even when he jumps up into the rush, this is a I kind of feel like Chase Reed is that one defender that encompasses everything to his game, and he does it so well. Yeah, he could get caught offensively with his aggressive pinches, trying to keep plays alive, jumping up into the rush. But without the puck too, he does have a lot of good defensive tendencies. And I feel like this is going to be one of those, not necessarily trump cards for Team USA, but kind of like Will Horikoff up front. Chase Reed could be a secret weapon for them on the back end, given his versatility, given the offensive push. And the story that he has too is just unbelievable. USHL, NAHL, if I'm saying that correctly. Then he goes to the OHL last season, or mid last season, tears it up, and he's on another tear this time around too. So wearing a letter for the Sioux Greyhounds, he's an alternate captain. So he's a leader on the ice. And I think he's going to be an important part for Team USA.
For sure. Yeah, there's a couple guys that we'll be watching that maybe not the headliners at this point, but may end up being one of them once the tournament starts. And I mean, yeah, the US doesn't have this as strong of a team depth-wise, but they still have some stars that can rip it up. So I feel like US is going to be in the medal rounds. They're not a favorite to win gold, but their past, of course, they're going to be talked about. And Canada, of course, I don't know. We'll do our previews of actually doing our predictions of who's going to be in the final and all that, but later on. But yeah, US is going to have another good team and a chance at a medal again this season or this year. Or next year, I guess, because it's like when the tournament will be when the gold medal is awarded. All right. Well, make sure checking out our next videos. We will be going to more in-depth previews for some of the teams, and of course, doing our annual predictions for the tournament. But thanks, Peter. Thanks, Dayton, for coming on and talking US and players that weren't on Team Canada, but for the most part, it looks like they did name the guys that we expected. So that's a good thing this year. But check out everything at thehockeyriders.com. We got World Juniors coverage already out there. Final rosters being released, finalized, all that stuff. And of course, players to watch pieces will be out as well as the tournament gets going. And then all the other coverage that we have on the website. But check that out. And until our next video, we will see you next time.